Ladies and gentlemen, hello. Is this thing on? I think it is. I pressed basically at the start of these, like at the start of Hotfix and the start of the podcast. What we do is I say 3, 2, 1, record, and then I go smile. Right, so you smiling obviously as it starts. However, I kind of pressed start recording, but the hard drive that it was recording to went to sleep, so it basically took about 20 seconds to start recording. So we were just smiling like it is.
It's amazing. You just get this completely still picture of both of us going, and eventually the hope fades from the eyes, and it's just like, oh god, it's not working.
A solitary tear.
A single manly tear goes down.
There's a disclaimer as well. Our TeamSpeak server has died. I believe it's under malicious attack, but there you go. So we've had to use Skype, ladies and gentlemen, but hopefully all will be resolved. So yeah, the sound will be shit. Well, it will not be, because I can hear some noise for some reason.
Yeah, Skype for some reason is full of noise all the time. I don't know why it is, but it's really not very good.
It's terrible.
Which is why we never use it.
It's terrible that we have to rely on Skype for video. I mean, although it doesn't look too bad today. I mean, I've got a good, nice HD picture of your face, as much as I don't really want to see that, but that's what I've got. So, Mr. Kirioff, this is, of course, Pubcast, ladies and gentlemen. So welcome to the Pubcast. It's where we just have a casual chat about what we've played over the last 7 days since the previous Pubcast. And I believe I'm going to start as well.
I don't know what that expression is. What
Euro
is that?
Truck Simulator 2. Right, now I played this on Monday last week, and wow. At least I think I played this on Monday. I think I don't think I spoke about this. Oh, I may have played. Oh no, I may have played it on Sunday. I don't know. I played it anyway this week, last week, some week, and you know what? I've got to check this. Did I
can
my
tell
mind
you.
is addled.
You played it
on the 7th of May.
Yeah, on the 7th.
Is that? Thursday.
So we're on.
Yeah, so no, it should have been in Hotfix. It should have been in Pubcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's not talk about that. So I've gone too far back into the future.
Short story is you got to shout out on the radio. That's the thing.
They know the deal. I totally won. I think it's a Logitech G27 complete setup. I am going to buy that. That is a pledge from me to you. I will sit here with a steering wheel, with a gear stick. Well, it won't. It'll be on this side. Steering wheel like this. That's what I'll do, because that's the stick. I want one of them knobs. You know, when it's like a massive wheel, because it's a massive juggernaut. And then I'll get the pedals as well. And then, well, I just find it ridiculous, because Euro Truck Simulator is not a game, but then when you play it, you realise it kind of is a game. But then, my dad was a lorry driver for a long time, a Class 1 HGV, and he said to me, never be a lorry driver, it is the worst job ever. And I said, well, why did you do it? He said, because I needed money. I was like, well, okay. So yeah, because he was bored. Now, admittedly, some people will enjoy it, but ridiculously, it's quite enjoyable to sit there. Is somebody getting killed?
I believe my wife is home, as you can hear from the dog in the background there. Just try and ignore that. Mental
Sounds
animal.
like it's like a stuck pig.
It gets really excited. It's like, oh god! it's like she's staring out the window, making that ridiculous noise.
Show us, man.
Let's see if I can.
Oh,
She's gone. She's left. She's away. You could
Hear
hear
it in the distance.
yeah, it's like the Doppler effect. You can just hear the stupid noises going all the way down the stairs.
So, all right, yeah. So I don't know. Well, whatever. Euro Truck Simulator. Get out my face. So I'm still on the pedestal, Mr. Kirioff. I played Uncanny Valley. Now, I believe Uncanny Valley is a term for things which are not quite as they appear, or something like that. I've seen people reference it a lot. Hilariously, I'd never really heard of the term before at all, or the phrase, or even knew what it was. I just was like, is this the name of a game? Which, in fact, I will Google it, Mr. Kirioff, and I'll give you a proper, unless you can give us a proper.
It's one of those things where I've heard that phrase before as well, and it's kind of
like a graph
for some
thing,
reason. I thought it was a TV show, but I might have just been making that up. Oh god, what is this? Wikipedia's like the word for this. The Uncanny Valley is a hypothesis in the field of aesthetics which holds that when features look and move almost but not exactly like natural beings, it causes a response of revulsion among some observers.
Yeah, so in the case of Uncanny Valley, the game, it's robots that look like humans, so you kind of think they're humans, but they're not. They're filthy AI, murderous scumbags. Now, this was an interesting game. It's like a horror survival.
So psychological, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a
Psychological horror.
psychological horror survival thing. But it does some really weird stuff, like it'll just randomly change tangents really fast, and you're like, whoa, I don't like. I think it's obviously trying to do that to kind of throw you all over the place, so you think, oh my god, what has just happened here? This is so next level. But I'm like, sometimes it can be a bit jarring, and it's like, well, this, okay, I get what you're trying to do, but you've just like thrust me into a situation which is like it. The whole point of the game is it's got multiple endings. The way you play through the game. Everything you do is a decision, whether you don't realise it's a decision or not. It is, like every action you do. There are obviously some major points in the game. Like there is a point where you're basically like a security guard that's got a job at a facility that's been shut down, and for some reason this facility is in the middle of nowhere and it's snowing. It's very much like The Shining, where Stephen King film, or I think it's a book, isn't it, which turns into a film. But basically, he. His family's like a caretaker, isn't he, of a massive hotel which is closed off for winter because you can't get to it because the roads are all covered in snow. It's kind of the same thing, you can see they've really kind of used that as inspiration. But there are like major points or like major decisions, I think. Like one of them is the security guard you work with who does the day shift, because you do the night shift, because obviously that's more spooky. He calls you at one point and says, the generator's gone down. Will you fix the generator? Now, you can, or you can say no and just carry on. Well, when I did my playthrough, I said okay and went and fixed the generator. So obviously that would have changed some things in the game. I mean, there's a couple of characters as well. There's a character called Eve. I'll try not to spoil this for you, but there's a character called Eve. There's the fat security guard who's like really fat. There's like thugs, and there's other people as well who you meet when you go into this crazy dream state. But I thought it was okay. I mean, I streamed it. I mean, like I said in the previous podcast, a lot of the games I do play are on stream, so this does give me a good chance to kind of like dissect them instead of sitting on the stream. It gives me a chance to get my thoughts together as well, instead of doing it live. But I think like it was an interesting game to go through first, like from a stream perspective. But then again, it's not something you like to play through it again. It's not really something that you sit there and watch. You kind of would get bored. You'd be like, I've seen this before, because I noticed on my second playthrough, I knew what was going to happen at certain points, so I just find myself sprinting around. I just sprint through sections, going there, sprint through, going there. My first playthrough maybe took me an hour and 20 minutes, based on the decisions I made. And then I reckon, as I never did a second playthrough, but as I started to play it again, I was literally 20 minutes in, and I was probably advanced to around about the 50-minute mark when I did in my original playthrough, because obviously I was looking at everything and trying to work stuff out, whereas I was just blasting through it thinking, okay, what happens if I get the fire extinguisher this time because I didn't get it last time? What happens if I don't fix the generator? Stuff like that. But I mean, I think it was an interesting game. I think if you're interested in like I mean, it's pixel art, 2D pixel art. If you're interested in that style of art, and you're kind of, I guess, similar to me in a kind of way where I don't jump scare horror games, I don't give a shit. They don't scare me. They might make me jump a little bit, but they don't, like, I'm not like, I'm frightened of what's in the dark or all that shit. I much prefer the psychological aspect, like I always go on about PT being like the best horror game I've ever played, even though it was just a demo for a game that now doesn't exist. But however, it's still installed on my PlayStation 4, so in 30 years time I'm gonna fucking eBay this bitch for $1 million. I think people actually have been doing that,
I'm fairly sure they've been selling them for a couple of grand, just because it's like a collector's thing now.
What the fuck? I'm selling mine. I don't even use the thing. I'm selling it.
I saw a story about it the other day, and someone had got like $3 grand out of their PS4 because it had PT installed on it. Whether that's still going price, I do not know.
I'm on Googling this shit. But yeah, did you watch me play it?
I did. Yeah, it looked quite interesting actually. I don't really do horror games as a whole. I don't know. I find myself like going the other way. Like, you seem to be able to just like breeze past it and not really care. I get sucked into it like almost too easily, to the point where I just don't want to play the game, because it's like, well, I know that if I play this, I'm just going to end up scared for like 8 hours, and I don't want to end up scared for 8 hours because I don't enjoy it, so I'm not going to play it. Like, I kind of go too far the other way. But that kind of thing where it's like, it's not so much kind of like a spooky atmosphere, as it were, but more what's actually happening to you and the discoveries that you make is a lot better. Like, for instance, I don't like even watching Let's Plays Amnesia or anything, but I did watch your video on PT, and it didn't scare me as much as it just left me really unsettled, and I don't mind that. Like, I prefer that, because it's like, it's kind of making you think more than it is just kind of bombarding you with stuff that's supposed to be scary.
Yeah.
Like I prefer it when it's kind of like, okay, well, whoa, that was weird. What the hell is that? You know, why is it doing that? What have I done to cause
Makes
that?
you think,
Yeah, I prefer stuff that makes me think as opposed to just this is dark, there's scary music, and things are going to jump out at you, because that's like it does scare me, but at the same time, it's not enjoyable. It's like if there was a game where it would be like scary but fun, then I'd be fine with it. But any horror game I've played has just been like, look how scared you are, and I'm just sitting there going, yeah, I don't really feel it. I'm not, I'm not really into it.
I sort of find it hard to get into. Like Amnesia was a good game. Yeah, Amnesia: A Machine for Pigs wasn't that good, but those type of games, like I find myself like, it just turns into a game for me. It's like, oh, okay. Like I remember the water section where the guy is invisible apart from his footsteps in the water, and now whenever you make a noise, he comes running towards where you are, and like, he's splashing around. It's like, where are you, sort of thing. You can distract him by throwing things, like throwing bits of meat into the water, and he'll run over there and get them and eat them, and then that's the time you have to move. But it just gets devolved down into a game for me. It's like I just avoid the guy. I'm not like, oh god, it's an invisible man who's going to kill me. I'm just like, right, chuck the meat over there and go there. That's the problem with me in games and those type of horror games, because it doesn't, it will never scare me, because it's not like, oh look, it's an invisible man. Oh god, it's like an undead guy going. Ugh. It's like that ain't frightening to me. What is frightening to me is when you've got the whole like unknown factor, and it's like, well, something has just happened, but has that happened? Like in PT, you would walk past things and like the phone would ring, or there'd be a crackle on the radio, and it would just be like a news report on the radio, which has got like nothing to do with anything. But it's like, why am I being told about this news report, which is very vague? And then the next time you go around, you get a little bit more information from the news report. It's like, oh, that's really good to me, because I'm like, hey, this is quite good. Whereas, the jump scare stuff is crap. But this Uncanny Valley game, I mean, apparently does have like bits of action in it. Like you can get a weapon, because it does show you how to use a weapon, although I never got a weapon at any point, so I don't know where you get that from. There's like a lot of things you can use on the environment. It's almost like a point and click adventure game, kind of meets a 2D survival scroller thing. That's kind of what it's like, because there are points where, I mean, I know there's a bit where when you're in like a certain place, I really don't want to spoil it, but you can pick up a heavy box, and if you go into the bathroom, you can throw the heavy box at the window and smash the window and get a piece of glass. It reminds me of games like Broken Sword that I played years ago, where you get this and you get that, and then that would unlock that. It's kind of like that, but I don't know. I thought it was okay. It didn't blow me away, but it was funky and it was interesting, and I believe it is on, well, I'll just check, but I think it's on early access. So if early access isn't your thing, then, well, avoid it. But Uncanny Valley, it is... Oh no, it might actually have released. Although Steam is going really slow. Like, really slow. Like, it's not even opening.
Way of Steam.
But what I can tell you from Google is it just says Uncanny Valley is a survival horror game that includes a mix of exploration, puzzle solving, and a bit of action with a lot of optional story content.
It is £6.99, because my Steam, for some reason, allowed me to look at it.
Mine doesn't, but Google tells me it's $10 as well, so that makes sense. That's about the exchange rate. So yeah, that was the first game I played this week, which was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I did enjoy I watched most of it live, and then I did go back and look at the VOD. The video that's on YouTube on the channel. But
yes, because I put it on the channel. Yeah,
it's the kind of like horror game that I would play, and I don't play many of them. So if you can consider that a praise, then
well, I think it is something I would play as well. It's something I want to see the other endings as well, and it's. You have to be very careful not to spoil yourself, because you can go to the forums on Steam and places like that, and you can see where people will explain what's happened, which obviously isn't a good idea when you stream the game, because people fill the chat with spoilers, and it's like, oh well. So I know things that I really shouldn't know, because I haven't got to that point anyway. Like, I mean, just one last thing before we go on to what you played this week, well, the first game, whatever the hell you've played this week, Mr. Kerr. There's like a bit where you can... There's no story, so to speak, but there are like computers, and they've got emails on them, and you can read through the emails, and there's quite a few emails on, and there's a lot of computers, and you can sort of piece together what's happened in the facility, try and work out why it's closed down. You can go to the boss's office and you can read his emails, and from his emails you can work out things like his passwords to his safes and stuff like that. So it is kind of interesting. But yeah, Uncanny Valley. There's a VOD on the channel if you want to check it out, guys, if you've not seen it, or you could go and watch it back on Steam, on Twitch if you so desired.
Well, I mean, the first thing I played this week, which was obviously a bad start to the week, was Takedown Red Sabre, which I'd never heard of, right, until someone sent it to me. I actually ended up digging into this after I played it, because I was like, there was something about that game that felt like it should have been good, and I couldn't really work out why. In the video, I specifically say it's like Rainbow Six if it was made by idiots. And I was actually really close to the mark.
So the new Rainbow Six then.
It's got former Rainbow Six devs. It had former Rainbow Six devs working on it.
Okay.
Which I could not work out, and I still haven't managed to really find out why it is that it released in such a poor state, because that game is a year old now. The AI is still broken. I mean, you can see in the video, the AI is still broken.
I remember from your video where you turn around and there's like three guys, just like, I don't know what they're doing, they're just like looking at each other.
Yeah, they don't seek cover, they don't obey commands properly, they just stand out in the open. So if you're in a level, the only level that actually worked in the end, because the others, two of them crashed, and one of them, the game started out recording fine, and this was really baffling to me. Started out recording fine. You know how sometimes with some games OBS won't record it if you set it to game capture, you have to do monitor capture.
Yeah.
The game started out recording with game capture absolutely fine, and then about 5 minutes into this level, the screen just went black. It just stopped capturing. It still captured sound, but it didn't capture the game.
Did it capture like the menu then stop when the game came in?
No, it was partway through the game that it stopped capturing.
That's weird.
I've never come across that before in my life. It's really odd.
Usually OBS has problems with, like, this is a bit technical, guys, but if a game runs on OpenGL or DirectX, OBS can have problems sometimes if it's one or the other.
But it's like I've not seen it stop
it wouldn't just stop
through.
halfway. Yeah,
it's really odd, and it still captured all the sound as well, so it was still.
But that's
going.
like, you can't really blame that on the game. That's just like, it could be OBS.
But it was just like one of those things where I was just playing. I was like, it's just like the ultimate bad luck game. What is going on? I cannot get this to work long enough to make a video. And then when I eventually did, it was like, it felt like it should have been a decent game. Like, it's a really weird thing to say, but it did feel like Rainbow Six in some respects, but it was just so broken, and I still can't work out how they managed to do that.
It didn't look too bad. Like, it didn't look shit. Like, you know, when you just see the weapon models and when you were firing and stuff, it didn't look.
Yeah, it didn't look awful, but it was
shit,
like there were so many there's just so many bugs with it. Like how they released it in that state, I say that we've seen it plenty of times on Steam alone, but it like most of it is broken. Like your squad AI is broken. They don't seek cover. They just stand out in the open. They don't crouch when they should. They don't obey orders properly. And if you shoot one of them by accident, they just ignore it. And they're just like, oh well, he's dead. Also, when you move,
well,
like when you die, you shift from the guy that you were like controlling before to another member of the squad.
Yeah.
However, in the intervening time between you dying and shifting, the entire squad freezes in place and doesn't move until you've taken occupation of one of the bodies. So if you're in the middle of a firefight and you get killed by a lucky shot, the entire squad dies because they've got no AI they've got no decent AI. They stand out in the open.
The game should just pause. Why doesn't it just pause at that point and say, "Do you want to play?"
Yeah, your squad pauses, but the enemies don't. So you take like the squad's taking tons of bullet fire, and you're just like, your squad's just standing there, and they all do the same thing. They look towards the sky when you die and you're about to go into another body. It's that every single squad member does this. And they just stand there until you move.
That must be like their default position, you know, or something.
Yeah. So if you die and then you move into the next squad member, and then he dies, and then you go into the next one and he dies, the entire squad is just frozen for a good, I'd say maybe 20 seconds, whilst being fired at, and they don't do anything about it.
So why the hell were you playing this game? This is what I've got to ask you.
Well, this was from the Steam gift gamble, so I didn't know what it was. So someone sent it me and was like, this has got great reviews or something, and I was like, I won't check it, but I suspect that's sarcasm. But I was not expecting it to be that buggy. Like, it wasn't just like the team AI as well. The enemy AI was like oversensitive. So if you crouch, you move silently, like you cannot be heard. And if you crouch, then generally speaking, the squad crouches behind you. They just mimic your behaviour, but in a really poor way. But at one point, while in the one that didn't record properly, I crouched down. I was sneaking behind a guy. The entire squad was behind me. They were crouched.
Right.
We stopped dead. I was like, right, get my silenced pistol out because my main weapon wasn't silenced. Go to shoot him in the back of the head. And there was literally not a sound. And the guy just goes, there they are. Turns round, looks at us, and shoots me in the head.
So
okay, he didn't hear anything. He didn't see anything. It was just like, it just recognised I was there and just turned around and shot me. And I was like, this is a stealth, like, this is supposed to be kind of, you know, stealthy operations. It's supposed to be like, it's like SWAT going into somewhere. It's supposed to be like Rainbow Six. What is that? The guy didn't even, like, he didn't hear anything. He didn't see anything. It just literally went, there they are, turned round, looked at me, shot me in like complete silence.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the Steam page here, and it's kind of funny because it says Takedown is a thinking person shooter, brutal, hardcore, and deadly, like the real thing. Not for the faint-hearted. Takedown requires you to bring your A game. FPS fans looking for an ultra-hardcore experience only need apply. So, like, I guess, like, okay, there must be some sort of a problem with this game. Why it released in such a shit state? If it's got previous Rainbow Six devs on the team, right now, Rainbow Six games are fairly decent on the whole. The new one, you know what? I've not played the new one, but I guess these devs obviously wouldn't be on the new one, would they? They were from older ones, but
Yeah.
it's just got to be like, oh, we've run out of money, so we've just got to put it out. Because I mean, when did this come out? February 2014. So
Yeah.
is that like that's only a year ago? That's not like, why wasn't this out on like early access or something?
I know, it's really weird. It's like it
Maybe
came
it
out of
was.
nowhere. It honestly does look like it looks like they just completely ran out of money. They didn't have time to finish the game. The only thing they could do was push it out in a completely unfinished and broken state. But it's just, I'm kind of, for the most part, the stuff that people are sending me for Steam Gift Gamble is like intentionally bad games.
Oh yeah,
which
it will be, won't it? Yeah, yeah.
I don't mind that. It's fine. But occasionally, I'm getting ones like this where
It's not. Yeah, it's not like.
it's like
I get what you're going to say. It's not like it's an intentionally shit game. They've tried to make a game, but then it is just shit, and you're like, what the fuck is this? Yeah,
it's like it's more like puzzling than others, because a lot of the games are like from either first time developers or indie developers where it's like they've gone onto Unity and they've bought like 8 models and slammed them all in some sort of default level creator and tried to sell it on Steam, and that's kind of like, well, that's just bad because it's bad. You know, they've got no experience. They don't know what they're doing. They're just trying to sell something, even though they have no idea how to actually make a game. But with stuff like this, I actually find it really interesting because there are quite a few examples of games where it's like, these devs know what they're doing. Like, they're not idiots. They've worked on the Rainbow Six games. The Rainbow Six games, on the whole, are pretty good. You know, they're fairly well received. And for people who like, you know, these hardcore tactical shooters, they are like the benchmark. They are ridiculously hard. If you play them on realistic, if you get shot once, you're out. That's it, you're done. Because, funnily enough, in real life, you get shot once, 9 times out of 10, you're done. But these guys, you know,
who would have thought guns are actually good at killing people? Maybe that's their main
like,
function. I mean, for fuck's sake.
These guys have got this experience in making this kind of game, and somehow it came out like just buggy as all hell, like broken. The very things that make the game, you know, what it's supposed to be, like the tactical side of the shooting, like having this the squad that you can have move around and follow you and give commands to. It's like these are all things that make the game what it is, and yet they're all broken.
Yeah.
And it's just, when I say I like playing games like that, that's a strong way to put it. It's interesting playing games like that, because once you've played it and you go back and look at it again, or you go and find what the people have said, you kind of build up this picture where it's like, where did this go wrong? Like, seriously, where did it go wrong? Where this game that should, on paper, have been essentially just like another version of Rainbow Six, and therefore would be quite a decent game.
Well, and there was a gap in the market there as well. I guess that's why they were doing it. Because I mean, it's only recently that I don't know, maybe. Well, it would have been last year E3, wasn't it? Rainbow Six.
Yeah.
Whatever they call this one, is it Siege or something? But, you know, yeah, with destructible environments. But I tried to get into the. Well, fuck it, I'm going to go on a PR rant. I tried to get on into the alpha of that. Got an email back and it said, I'm sorry, we don't have enough keys. At the same time, they were just repeatedly giving keys out to YouTube channels that are much smaller than ours. So fuck you, Ubisoft. Anyway, what we've got next is, obviously it's not all about size and reach and stuff. I actually wanted to play the game. And I'm like, please give me a key. And they're like, oh no, we don't have one. It's questionable. Anyway, next game I played last week. It's kind of weird because I was playing Galactic Civ earlier in the week than when we actually started recording later on this week for the Let's Play that's on the channel, which is a branding deal, but actually it's quite a good deal for us because we're just basically doing what we do with Let's Plays and we're kind of getting a reward for it, so it's fine. But let me just see what else I've been doing. I think pretty much, to be honest, well, I guess we could touch on World of Warships a bit because we did stream that a little bit. Because we started playing. Because I mean, a couple of weeks ago, Sidestrafe got me into World of Warships, and I was playing on the NA servers, so the ping wasn't very good for me. It was about 250, 260. Now I wasn't too fussed, right? And I did say like, oh yeah, it's kind of playable. It kind of was playable, but when you start getting to the higher, like I was maybe mid-tier boats. I was looking at like tier 5, maybe tier 6 stuff. Ships, I should say, as well, not boats. it was getting frustrating because I was getting hit. People were good at shooting then. They may have even been cheating and using that goddamn mod, but it was hard for me to hit because their boat would be like this. As I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
In the distance, I'm like, in the end, it's doing my head in. So I got an EU key and I started an EU account and I played around a little bit with it. You've got an EU key as well. I think you had an EU key before, but essentially we were just like new accounts, really. I mean, I'd played a couple of games. I think it's got accelerated XP on it, so you do unlock stuff really quick. But yeah, the lag was much better, obviously, because it was in EU.
I have to admit, I hadn't realised just how much the lag was affecting playing before. Like, I didn't think it was that much of an issue, but we moved to EU, and I've promptly seen, like, frankly, my ability in the game go way up. Like, I'm doing better in every single match. After having had a break of, like, 2 weeks, I'm doing a lot better than I was before. So I'm tempted to just put that down to the fact that, like, we've got a decent ping now. So there's no delay on what I'm seeing. There's no delay on what I'm doing. And as a result, I've gone from kind of being lower fifth of the team to generally being either kind of middle or towards the top, which is like, it's made it more enjoyable.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, I mean, when I look at the game, it's like, what is the like long-term appeal to me? In fact, they've actually released US battleships and Japanese carriers now, so you can unlock them in the game. Like, it is enjoyable. It is very much an arcade game, though. I don't think it's going to be something I'm going to spend a ton of time on. Initially, I thought, okay, this is something I might play quite a bit, like every now and again. But it's like, I go into a game, I know a game's going to be fairly action-packed, and it's almost like once I've had a game or maybe another game, I kind of like, okay, I don't want to do this again, because it is kind of samey. I know there are different ships. I mean, I did start playing with a destroyer, which was quite interesting because it does play a lot different to the cruisers and the battleships I was playing before, and I've not touched the aircraft carriers as well, so maybe I would like to check that out. But I don't know, like, I just get like kind of, and I'm going to hijack the next game before I ask you what you've been playing as well, Mr. Kirillov, because this kind of does tie well into a game I played the other day, which is Warframe. It's this whole like grind mentality. Like, people are always going about the grind in World of Tanks, going about the grind in War Thunder, the grind in World of Warships, which admittedly isn't too bad because it's really sped up. The grind in Warframe is apparently legendary, like absolutely ridiculous grind. But it's, these are free-to-play games. They have to give you a reason to keep playing the game. They can't just give you everything and expect you to just purely enjoy what the game gives you, because you will end up like me, where with World of Warships, I'm like, okay, I've still got additional ships to unlock, but even at where I am, I could be a battleship, I could be a destroyer, I could unlock an aircraft carrier. I'm still going to have potentially a similar experience to when I'm like at the highest tier with the biggest battleships and the biggest ships, because you're still kind of doing the same thing. You get what I'm saying? And it's like I don't know whether I can keep playing that over and over again, but what I will say is I have found it a lot more interesting than World of Tanks. So if you are a World of Tanks player, then maybe give this a go if you can get access to it, because I still think you have to buy access in at the moment. But whenever it comes out into open beta or whatever they do, I would give it a check, because, or at least check it out, because it's not bad, is it, Mr. Carrot? I mean, it took us by surprise, didn't it?
No, I found it really enjoyable. I don't know how much of that is down to the fact that we played naval action quite a bit before it, and so it's kind of like the setting is a bit more appealing to me now. But it's a lot more action packed than World of Tanks. Like, I feel like you could load up World of Warships and you could have a game or two and then go away and do something else, and you could get away with doing that like once or twice a week. Whereas with World of Tanks, I never felt like I could do that, because I always felt like either I'm going to be in and I'm going to have a game and it'll last 5 minutes, or I'll be there until the timer goes down. Like, there seemed to be very little middle ground for World of Tanks for me. Whereas World of Warships, it's like it just seems to be the pacing is better.
It always goes down to everybody being killed as well, or like there's maybe one or two ships left. It's like always. I just think the thing with it is you can attack people really quick, and you can take a massive load of beating. Like, it's you don't just die instantly. I mean, I'm not saying you die instantly in World of Tanks, but yeah. Anyway, Warframe was the other thing I wanted to talk about. Now, so you've actually played this as well, haven't you, a bit? So I guess we can kind of share this one. Now, I played Warframe a couple of years. In fact, I will search the YouTube channel, because I made a Warframe guide, and that was the last time I actually
played
really
Warframe
played it.
So long ago.
It's like a year ago. This was.
I'm pretty sure it was still in alpha, beta.
Well, it's like
the first time we played it.
Yeah, it was about 2 years ago, right? So that's when I played Warframe, and I made a video. I made a couple of videos, and I made like a little guide video, and they did quite well. I found it really enjoyable. It was very bare bones. Okay, so you basically had your Tenno, which is the guy, in the Warframe. You're like a space samurai, basically. That's what you are. the idea is that the solar system has been taken over by Grineer, and they're like this horrendously cloned race because they're sterile, but they want to keep living, so they just keep cloning themselves over and over again. But every time they clone themselves, they get more and more shitter, and then they die. So they're after a crazy cure, so they're trying to kill everyone. I think they're actually humans, the Grineer. I think that's what they're supposed to be like in the future. And there's like these other crazy races pissing around in the solar system. It's a bit mental. But when we played it, or like, well, I'll go off my experience when I played it ages ago. Like, very bare bones. You just had your guy. You had like a menu screen, and you could like equip stuff. You could upgrade your weapons. You could add mods. You could change your Warframe, and then you just went off on missions. And it was very much like a PvE dungeon crawler, and you just kept doing the dungeons over and over and over and over again. And you know, does Steam tell me how long I've played it? I bet it does. I mean, I played it for quite a bit because I've got a level 30 Excalibur Warframe and a level 26 Sarin Warframe. And they're like 30's the max level. So I've played it for quite a bit, you know, even when it was in its bare bones state.
Yeah.
Now, I think the reason for that was you just cannot get anything. There's nothing else like this in terms of combat and just how fast the game is. It's like a parkour-infused space ninja FPS slash 'em up thing. Like, you just run around, slashing and fucking shooting, and it's like crazy. It's like, holy shit. It's totally crazy.
Well, I mean, I've got 25 hours in it now. I've only played it for about an hour this week, but 25 hours is not bad for a free-to-play game.
Yeah,
really.
I've got 51 hours in Warframe. So, yeah, I've played that a lot, you know, Warframe.
Yeah.
And all of that was before it had all these updates coming. Well, then the update come out, didn't it, Mr. Kirioff, called the Tube Men of something. It was like, why is this the Tube Man?
That was crazy.
And I seen it, and I was like, you know what? I clicked on it. Okay, let's have a look. Because I remember it had the PlayStation 4 release. I thought it was Xbox One as well, but I was told on the stream it was just PS4. Maybe it is, I don't know. But I knew it had a console release. I also know that it's a fairly profitable game as well. Like, they do make quite a bit of money off it. Like, it's not just some, like, crap game that hardly, you know, not a lot of people play and spend money on. But, yeah, the update came out. I clicked on it, and I noticed that the launcher had drastically changed. It looked like a fancy launcher now. It didn't look like some cheap-ass thing. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe the whole game is different, you know. And when it put me into the game, it started off as a new character with the tutorial. Now, I'd done this before the tutorial. Whenever I jumped back in, maybe over the last year or something, and just quickly played that or something, I don't know. But I was like, oh, okay, do I still have all my stuff, or have they just like refunded me everything? Have they done like an account wipe or something? I went through the tutorial, and then I was on a ship, and it was actually in orbit, and I'm like, wow, this is way better. Now, it's basically just the same as looking at menus, isn't it? You could argue menus are more efficient. You can still just look at menus. Like, when you've got your Tenno, like, you've got your armory, you've got your, you know, your mission selection and all that shit. Before, it was just a menu screen, right? But now you've actually got a ship you can walk around, but you can still turn it back to the menu screen if you want, like, which you would do, you know, once you played it a lot. But the fact I was standing in this ship made me like, this is quite good. Like, I'm in a ship and I can see the enemy ships flying by. I think your ship's cloaked. We're in orbit around whatever planet we was by, and it was just way more polished. Even little things like when you press escape and the menu comes up, the camera zooms behind the Tenno and like pulls the hand out, and it's like a hologram that comes out the hand, and it's all really, really like polished. Like, really, everything was really polished in the game. It's like really slick.
Oh, that's what I've only played it for about an hour this week, but the first thing I noticed was that everything was so much clearer as well. Like, the only thing I'm struggling with still is and I don't know how you'd even go about it, the mod screen, where you've got the cards where you put them into weapons and stuff. That's still rough. Like, that's still...
I don't think I like that. You know, that's kind of the free-to-play crap that is. That's like, right, we've got a ton of... I mean, basically, what you do in Warframe is... Now, this might be slightly different because... Well, no, I'll try and give a recap, okay, based on my experience. So, you've got a dojo. So, you've got a clan dojo, which is where your clan is, right? You can work to build things in the dojo, if you like. So, like, different add-ons and stuff. Like, I don't know, you can build statues and stuff. You can... You basically run missions to get mods, which is what Kiri was talking about, which are like cards that you can use to augment your character in certain ways, right? Augment your Warframe. Now, within that system, there are certain cards which will fit in certain slots, so they will cost less. So you get like a maximum like mod capacity of say 30, and a card might be 4 points. But if you put it in the corresponding pot, it becomes worth 2 points, so you can get more cards in, sort of thing. And the whole idea is you do missions, you level up your Warframe, you level up your weapons, so they do more damage and whatever every time you do missions and kill enemies and that stuff. You then put mods into your Warframe, but you can upgrade your mods, and the mods drop on the missions from monsters. So it's like a loot fest. I mean, there's like a load of loot in the game. You also get them for completing certain missions as well. And then leading on from that, you can then craft items, so weapons and stuff. Of course, you can just buy these if you've got platinum, which is like their premium currency. But you can craft them like for, use the in-game currency, and also like getting crafting materials, which again, going after crafting mats is why you would run loads of missions. So you can see where this is like tons of farming. And then on top of that, now this was the end game as far as I was concerned last time I played, and it was, you get the I forget what they're called, but they're like the super versions of the suits. They're like white and gold, and the weapons.
Is it Prime?
Yeah, because I've got the plan for a Prime weapon. Yeah, and you get them from these like special missions that are really difficult and take ages to do, like really difficult. And that's kind of what it is, and it's a massive grind. Now I know that because I played it for 51 hours, and there may even be more bits and pieces in the game. I mean, Kiri knows that because he played it for 25 hours. But the point is, we've played it collectively for like 75 hours plus.
Yeah.
If you've not played Warframe, you should go and play Warframe, because
there's another completely new thing that I haven't experienced yet, which is the Archwing.
Oh, no,
I think it's called.
Yeah, no,
which I think is space-based combat. So you get like a special suit that allows you to go out into space or something. It's one of the single-player missions that I didn't get around to doing this week, but it feels so much better than it used to. Like, it's so much more polished. It runs better. It's a lot smoother. The amount of like diversity in terms of the Warframes that you can get now is mental. Because when we first played, there was like, what I want to say, maybe 8 max, probably no more than that. And they've been regularly adding them in. The number of weapons they've added in is like, there's just so many to look at. But the thing that's, I think, the most impressive for me is the way they've reworked the like the solar system thing that they had before, like where you chose to do missions. So you have like Earth and Mars and Venus and all that. That used to be such a pain to navigate. Like it was incomprehensible. You had the planet, and then you had different names of different missions around the planet, but there was no outline around them. And it was like, well, what level capacity is that one? I don't know. Have I done it? I don't know that either. The way they've got it now, where it's just, here is the planet. Around it, you've just got these like essentially modules around the planet where it's like, okay, that's a mission, that's a mission, that's a mission, and they're in proper order. So it's
all slick, as again, like really polished.
Yeah, I mean the one that I was messing with this week is the I've got a Frost Warframe, which is level 26, with a Boltor gun that's level 26 and dual heat swords which are level 26, and I remember getting those a long time ago, and it feels different playing the game now. Like, it feels like stuff's been added in. I don't remember the Boltor ever nailing people to the wall when I first got it.
No, I don't
many
remember
years
that,
ago that was. Yeah. But it does now, and it's funny as hell, especially if someone runs straight up to you and you blast them in the head. They go flying across the screen, and then they just nail to the wall on like the other side of the hall. And it's like, oh my god!
I said this on the stream, and like, I know I keep referring back to the stream, guys, but that's, like I said, it's where I play on my games. Twitch.tv/Unit Lost. Go there and win big. But it feels like Destiny, but it feels like what Destiny should be, because I mean, Destiny is like, I really like Destiny because I'm a fucking idiot, and I played that and I enjoyed it. I like the fact it was an FPS. Like, I like PvE in MMOs. Yeah, if there was an MMO popped up, I could get stuck into PvE, even if you say it's whatever MMO shit, whatever. I could probably do that and get stuck into it. The fact this was FPS. Destiny, it was like, okay, this is like a different take on it. It was console, so it was not really a proper FPS, let's be honest, guys. But it was enjoyable, and I enjoyed it, but then it had like clearly no content at all. Like, they didn't have enough content. Once I'd done all of the content, then I was like, well, I'm not running this over and over again to get the chance of a certain drop. Now, I know that game had the problem with the loot caves and all of that stuff, but it still is just a gear grind, at the end of the day. And it became boring because there wasn't enough places and enough missions and things like that to keep you going once you've done all of the stuff. I know there are expansions which have come out now which have added bits and pieces to it, but the game's dead to me now. I don't care. Warframe, though, if Warframe, which it appears to do, has a shitload of missions in it, then you are going to get hours and hours of enjoyment out of it. I mean, hell, if I got like 50 odd hours from just the base game, effectively, when it didn't have all of the fancy stuff in, then there must be something there. I mean, it is kind of a unique game. It's a weird game. It's something you wouldn't have thought would have worked. It's like weird, but it
You
does
can't
work.
really. It's something that is like incredibly difficult to actually describe to people if you want
Yeah,
to. It's like, I should play Warframe. Oh, cool. What is it? Well, it's like it's like a first person or third person if you want to go third person melee FPS with shooting mechanics, and you can wall run and you can jump huge distances, and you've got combos for your weapons, and there's grinding for loot, and it's like what do you even call it? It's like, but at the same time, if someone knows what Destiny is, it's like, what's Warframe? Well, it's like Destiny if Destiny was a lot better. It's like Destiny if you had crazy, like, over the top combat, and it's like Destiny turned up to 11. It's much faster, it's much sleeker. You can do more interesting things, and I mean, just by playing it a little bit this week, I was kind of sitting there thinking I could see myself like losing a lot of time to this if I'm not careful.
Well,
because there's something very satisfying about that game, especially when you pull off things like stuff like stealth kills. I don't remember stealth kills being a thing when I played it like a couple of years ago, but I distinctly remember when I was messing about with it earlier this week, I went up behind someone and I got my swords and I jumped onto their shoulders and rammed my swords through their head on either side.
There seems to be different animation. I've just
And
turned
then
the cameras
jump
off, bloke. But yeah, I can't say you're doing that because nobody can see us. Take that, chat. Anyway, and viewers and God knows what. So what I've got open is the Warframe page, because when you said what do they actually call it, I was interested. I was like, well, what do they actually call it? And they just call it a cooperative, free-to-play, third-person online action game in an evolving world. So it kind of is. But cooperative's an interesting point. When I played it on the stream the other day, I played with two people who were just from the random public playlist, right? And they were shit. They clearly didn't know what to do, and they took ages to get to a point. I'm standing there for 10 minutes waiting for them to get to a door, because there's certain doors that require two... I don't know why I'm doing that, because you can't see my face. But they require two people to press the key at the same time to open. So it was annoying. But if you've got a team of people, or like you're part of a guild or something, then yeah, you're going to have a good time. Because it really is like, oh, it's a good time. But this just made me laugh, because I scrolled down and it's recommended by curators, and you can see that we've recommended this, Unit Lost, which is pretty good. So I'm going to go to what we said about it. And, well, we said, you are a sword, dagger, axe, fist-wielding space ninja who can run along walls while firing automatic weaponry. It says it all, really. And that basically is all it is. It's just about stylish murder, ladies and gentlemen. You go in, you wreck people, and... well, you wreck NPCs, and then you do it again, and you do it again, and you get better loot, and then you change your Warframe, because there's a ton of Warframes in the game. Again, I'll tell you what, I'll go back to my monitor screen just to show you. So, if I look at this here, I've got the Warframe section open. We've got like Ash, great for players looking for more stealthy approach to combat. You've got Banshee, you've got Chroma, you've got Ember, you've got Excalibur, you've got Frost, you've got Hydroid, you've got Limbo, you've got Loki, you've got Mag, you've got Macy, you've got Mirage, you've got Necros, you've got Nova, you've got Nyx, you've got Oberon, you've got Rhino, you've got Saren, you've got Trinity, you've got Valkyr, you've got Valban, you've got Volt, you've got Zephyr. There's like a ton there.
Yeah.
And they all play differently. It's like...
yeah, they all play completely differently, because I've got... on my account, I've got not a Loki. I've got Volt. I've got a Volt. I've got Rhino, Frost, and I think it might be Ash, actually, because Ash has got an amazing ultimate ability.
He's got a bow or something, Ash.
No, he's got like the one that I've got. I can't remember if it's Ash or not, but I think it is, because it's stealth. But his ultimate ability, he teleports to enemies. So, like, you disappear, but then you appear behind an enemy and stab them in the back. You appear on top of another one and stab them in the head. You appear behind someone else and literally, like, carve them into two pieces.
Yeah.
And you just, like, flash from one part of the screen, like, one part of the battle to the other, killing, like, loads of stuff and then run off. By contrast, Rhino basically just charges into stuff at, like, 1,000,000 miles an hour and rams it out of the way. Frost, his ultimate ability, puts down a huge dome of, like, freezing energy that you can stand in, and whilst you're standing in it, you essentially take no damage, and any enemy that gets anywhere near it just dies. Like, they just get frozen in place, and then they just die. Those are three Warframes that I've played a fair bit with, and all three of those play completely differently. Like, you cannot play the same with Ash as you would with Rhino, and you can't play the same with Rhino as you would with Frost, because they've all got different strengths and weaknesses. It's really, really well done.
There's a lot of variety, but like when I streamed it, there were people in the chat who were obviously playing the game quite a lot, and they were, yeah, but everyone plays as this, this Warframe and that Warframe, which is inevitably going to happen because you want to do the hardest difficulty all the time. It's kind of like, again, Diablo 3 is a good example. I remember when I played Diablo 3, Like, it might be a bit different now, but I know the wizard was a massively powerful farming character compared to others. Like, it could move around really quick, and it could just burn down stuff. And it was like, this is much more efficient than, let's say, a barbarian was at the time. So there's going to be things like that, and it's like, well, whatever. What can you do? Anyway, what else have we played, Mr. Kirioff? Or have you played?
Well, the only other game that I played this week was a game called Toren. Or Toren. I'm still not entirely sure how to pronounce it. I always say Toren, but I think that, yeah. But there's a video on the channel for that. It's a weird one. It's like, it feels like a PlayStation 2 adventure game. That's the only way to describe it. It's made by a Brazilian studio called Sword Tales. And it's got so many different elements to it. It's a really nice looking game. It's very simplistic. Like, the graphics are not complicated. It's not, you're not sitting there in like...
hang on, I'm actually evolving Pubcast because I should be showing this, guys, while we're talking about it, because we own the fucking video, basically. So hang on a minute. Carry on, Mr. Kirioff.
But essentially, you've got you play a girl called Moonchild, and the story is really odd. Like, it's something you kind of need to play through yourself, because there's lots of little things that you kind of pick up on as you go through. And you've basically just got a simple task, which is to climb to the top of the tower, which is called Toren. And there's like an enemy at the top that you have to defeat. And it's got a really, really nice atmosphere. Like, the way they've designed the world and the way that they've kind of constructed the game. The fact that it's not kind of top-of-the-line graphics, it hasn't got amazing textures everywhere. It doesn't look brand new. It kind of looks like maybe a couple of years old, to be honest. But they've picked like a visual style that actually means that it looks really nice pretty much all the time. The way it tells the story as well, you've kind of got these cutscenes where you'll have this guy who he is kind of becomes obvious later in the game. I won't say because it'll spoil it. But it's like you're a kid and you're having stuff explained to you as you grow up. But you're growing up ridiculously quickly, because you are essentially the only thing that can save humanity from where it is, which is there is no longer any sort of night on the planet. There's only daytime, because when humanity built this massive tower, the sun decided not to go anywhere and was decided to punish humanity for building the tower. It's like a mix of myth. It's kind of, the story kind of makes me think a little bit about Dark Souls in a way. Where you've got like the eternal flame, and you've got all this kind of stuff preventing humanity from reaching its true potential, that kind of thing. And you've got the same kind of cycle of death and rebirth as well. Like, you die, but then you kind of come back, but you're hollow. With this, you die, and at one point you like properly die. There's nothing you can do about it. It's scripted into the game. And the next time you see yourself, you're a baby. Like, you've been reincarnated, but you've got to start all over again. Like, you are a little baby, and then you've got to grow up to be a toddler, and then you've got to grow up to be a young girl, and then a teenager again. It's really odd. It's really unusual. The story's presented in a good way, but the story's really bizarre. Like, you're going to have to go through it probably at least twice to pick up on everything they show you as you play the game. But for some reason, it just really caught my fancy. Like, it just plays really well. It's really enjoyable to go through. It's not that complicated.
And is it out now, or is it just
it is,
early access or something?
It's fully released. It's $6.99, I think.
Not bad.
So it's another really cheap one. It's only a couple of hours long, but you're kind of better playing it a couple of times. And the thing is, you'll want to play it a couple of times. The puzzles aren't that complicated. Like, there's nothing really kind of taxing in there. And it's the same for the combat. It's not like you're not going to be sitting there going, oh God, how do I win this fight? But at the same time, it's kind of enough that you don't mind that it's not complicated. It's like the whole thing is about telling this weird story, and once you've finished it, you want to go back and just go, well, hang on, what did I miss? Like, what part of the story did I not understand the first time? I need to find out.
It's kind of like one of those Brothers of Tale of Two Sons type.
Yeah.
Like,
I've seen that comparison a few times. I think
it's like a fair thing. Let's get the cameras back. I think, like, to be honest, like I mean, with Brothers, that was overrated to hell. Like, everybody's saying that was game of the year, the year it came out. It's just like, it's not. It really wasn't. Like, it was just this nice little story. It does look a lot better than Toren does graphically. Like, the engine was better and stuff. But I can see very strong. Like, to me, as somebody who's not played this game, that's straight away what I thought. It's like, oh right, this is just Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, but without two people to control, because they're gimmick was you needed a control pad for it. I think you can use the keyboard and mouse. They did patch that in, but it was a bit shit. But you used control pad, and each one of the analog sticks control one of the brothers. So you'd have to do puzzles, but the puzzles were really simplistic and stuff. And it was a simplistic story. It was like the dad's dying, the two brothers have got to go off to save the dad, and I'm totally spoiling this for you, so mute your ears for a sec. And then the oldest son dies. The younger son's left on his own, but then he comes back and he's now a man. It's like it's just a simple story, you know what I mean? It's like but like I'm just a cold-hearted bastard, so it didn't really get it for me. But yeah, this I don't know. Like for me, I don't know whether it would be something I would have played, but obviously you enjoy it, Mr. Carry Off, and as your video title does say, it's a stunning indie adventure game.
Well, that's the thing. It's one of the
just
things I really like about
chill-out
it.
game sort of thing.
Yeah, it's very much a chill-out game. It's kind of they've done a really good job with things like the music and the sound design and stuff. So it's very relaxing to play, and then you'll have points where you're not scared or anything, but they do a very good job of kind of building up tension. But it always kind of resolves itself back into this thing of you going around this tower, which has been really nicely designed, and it doesn't. The graphics aren't amazing, but it does look good for like how it looks. They've been very clever with lighting effects and the way that certain parts are presented, so that even though it doesn't look like it's really graphically intensive, it's still pretty to look at, which is, if you're going to be spending a couple of hours in the same world, you want it to be consistent and you want it to look decent, and it does. And all in all, I mean, it's the kind of thing where I kind of saw it and thought, that looks interesting, not really thinking it would be that amazing, but that it was worth a look because people were, starting to take note of it. And actually, it turned out to be one of the more enjoyable games I've played recently.
You did say to me you were going to make a video on it, and then you said, I need to put a bit more time into this because it's a bit... I don't think you even expected what it was, sort of thing.
No.
Expected it to be what it was.
My original plan was just to play it, record the first 20 minutes or so, and kind of go from there. And I started playing it.
Which is the plan for most stuff. I mean, because when you get sent stuff to you guys, it's like, well, you've got a ton of games. You can't just be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to...
And it's the standard approach for like a first impressions. It's like you're going through your first impressions like with the viewer. But for me, I was kind of... I got like half an hour in. I was still recording. And in the end, I just shut up and I just carried on playing. I've still got the footage saved, but I ended up going pretty much very much towards near the end. And then I kind of thought, well, I had to do that because otherwise I wouldn't have said that the game was that great, because it doesn't start off like very quickly. You've got quite a bit of cutscene, you've got quite a bit of exposition on the story at the start. But the thing is, it's all worth it.
That's where it gets a bit muddy, though, isn't it? Because it's like, am I going to do a first impressions, or am I going to do a video which is like not a first impressions? Or I mean, and it does actually change, guys, because you will turn up and be like, okay, I'm going to just play this game, and you're like, holy shit, it's actually pretty good. So then you want to make a proper video on it, which is kind of the game I want to talk about next, which was, let me see if I can find this on the Twitch VOD, but it's a game called Interplanetary, which is really fucking quality. Now,
I only caught part of this. I didn't see. Unfortunately, I caught the bit at the end where you got disconnected, so I didn't see the build up.
Well, I'm gonna when this advert plays on Twitch. You know what? Next time we do this, guys, it makes sense for us to show you what we've been playing. So what I will do is, I might actually do like a fancier overlay where we can actually have the game and our faces still on at the same time, because I've actually got an overlay template for that anyway. Because us just talking about stuff, when we can show you, in case you don't know what it is. This is a visual medium, then that is better. But apparently I'm getting an advert for Windows gaming laptops, which I don't care about. Oh, I'm also getting sound.
You're not in the market for one of them, then?
No. Okay, right. So, basically, when this plays, this is a game about solar system war, right? You are a planet, that is what you are. Right, you can see it on the screen here, guys. So this was my planet, and when you zoom out, you can see the orbits of all the other planets in the solar system that you're in, and you all are trying to kill each other with interplanetary weapons. It's absolutely crazy. So you have to you've even got, you can see there's a tech tree that I've just brought up on the screen. You've got like a Civ style tech tree where you can decide what to go for, and from what I can tell, there's like 3 basic paths. Yeah, you've got intelligence and counterintelligence. Now, you need intelligence to see where, what buildings are on the other planets and where they are, because you need to aim your weapons at the planet, don't you? You can't just randomly fire them and hope for the best. You need counterintelligence to stop their intelligence so they can't see what you've got, kind of like stealth. Then you've got a more economy focused tree almost, where it increases the resources you get. So you get mass and you get energy. Well, I think it might be called material, but let's just call it mass. And the last one is obviously weapons, interplanetary weapons, which, so you get missiles and railguns and lasers and eventually you can build super weapons, but I never actually got to building super weapons. So yeah, what you do is you start off, you build like a power plant, like a solar power station. You then build like maybe a mine, and you have to attach them. That's those lines you can see on the video there, guys, from the solar plant, where I've got 3 mines attached to it. What that basically means is I'm getting a ton of material every turn, which I can then spend on buildings, and everything takes 1 turn to build. Because I think 1 turn it's not a year, because a year would be a total trip around the sun, wouldn't it? It's like maybe a few months or something. I don't know. But what you do is you build stuff, and you've got cities, okay? And when all your cities are dead, you lose the game, right? So all you've got to do is basically try and limit the damage to your planet while attacking other planets. But the way you attack the planets is really funky, because gravity plays into effect on where you fire stuff. Now, I only got to railguns and missiles, interplanetary missile systems. So you have to fire them at the planets. Now, you can upgrade them, right? Mine were like semi-upgraded. My railguns were not upgraded at all. So the way the railgun worked is it literally fired a projectile at a planet, and you had to guess where the planet would be, and you have to take into consideration the movement of other planetary bodies. So if you want to fire at somebody and they're kind of, there's, let's say, a moon or something in the way, it may not be there when you fire, so you can't use its gravity because it will move out of the way and the shot will just go off into nowhere. So it's pretty difficult to hit people with railguns, right? Missiles, though, were a bit different. Provided you got close enough to the planet, they would lock on, and then they would go into the planet and they would hit. That noise as well, guys, is Kiri breathing, but that's TeamSpeak, that's Skype being really shit.
Yeah,
he cannot
I
help
apologise.
that. No, it's all right. He can't help that. It's just the shitness of Skype. But yeah, like the missiles, if you got them in on like the path of the orbit and it got really close, it would lock on, and there were upgrades to increase the. I don't know why I'm waving my hands around because you can't see my face, but I don't know. So I do things, but
enthusiastic.
Yeah. So what you would try and do is like what I was trying to do was take out their telescope platforms, so they've got no intelligence, so they can't see what I'm building. And my first proper game, I won the game because I crippled this guy, because these were all multiplayer games as well. I crippled him to a point of like I had loads of intelligence on him and loads of counterintelligence, and he couldn't see what I had. So really, he was sort of screwed unless I kept missing. If you keep missing your shots, it gives him a chance to recover, because it isn't a dead-on thing. Maybe some of the weapons are dead on. I think you can like launch planets into people at one point and stuff like that, like when it gets to the end game. But it was a really funky, well, I'll bring the cameras back. It was a really, really funky thing. Like I've never seen a game like that before. This idea of planets attacking each other, and the whole thing with the gravity being the thing where you've got to aim your projectile in. It's like a really, not a party game, that's not fair, but like a really like if me and you played the game, it would be really funny, because it wouldn't matter if I knew what the technology was. It wouldn't matter, because if I kept missing, it don't matter. You get a lucky shot and your railgun smashes up my fucking mining facilities. It's like, oh crap, then I've got to spend turns fixing my stuff. I can't then just keep firing my weapons at you, because that's like, I'm wasting my resources on that. And it's really funky. It's really,
I cannot think of anything that is similar to this. The only thing I can think of maybe is the DEF CON games. And even then, it's like, this seems like a lot more complex, and it's kind of. I mean, who made this? Who was it? Who's it from? Team Jolly Roger. I don't.
Just an indie dev, yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. Like I really like indie games like this, where it's a good idea. This is why I don't really like indie games like that thing you looked at, that Toren thing, because it's like that ain't new to me. That's just been done before. This though is like, what the fucking hell is this? Yeah. It's like, this is crazy. I couldn't even I didn't know what it was. I literally went into it almost like your Steam gift gamble thing, and I'm like, I don't know what this is. I'm just going to check it out, and I threw it on, and I'm like, I was trying to work out like what's what. I was getting loads of backseat gaming because apparently I can't read instructions on the screen, and I'm just like, why isn't this working? But once I worked that out, it was like, okay, this is pretty good. Now there was a couple of problems with it though. 2 of the games I was in disconnected, which was fucking annoying, because there's not many people playing the game, because I think it might be an early access, or it may have just come out. It's not got much population, and I was like, okay, that's kind of annoying, because you could play this for hours. You could play it for hours and hours, because the way the turns can be timed, but even if they're a minute for a turn, That's still pretty long, because you're going to be going through a lot of turns. People wanted longer than that though, and I can understand, because in the one game I was in, I think it had 60-second turns, the one of them did, and I had like 4 weapons, and it took me about 40 seconds just to aim the weapons. So to do other stuff on my planet, I had to be really quick, and then I was firing like these railguns and missile systems off, and they weren't the best shots because I wasn't having a load of time to do it. So I think ideally the best way to play this is with infinite turn timers, but of course that means you have to wait for everybody to click next turn, and then it plays out. So you basically get your turn time is you've got to decide what to do. I mean, even things like, if my hand's the planet here, if you've built a missile system there, and you've got to know which way your planet spins on its axis. So once it gets like round to there, I can then not fire at Mr. Kiriov's face because the missile system is on this side of the planet. I can try and loop it in, and use gravity, but your planet moves as you fire it, so then it affects it and it doesn't really go. So there are things like that you've got to think about. So it is very tactical. But I do just think it does come down to he who has the best intelligence and counterintelligence basically wins, or in fact counterintelligence. If you spent all your money on counterintelligence and didn't even build offensive weapons, they would not be able to know what's on your planet, but you would not be able to attack them. But you could, if they were building up to attack you, but you had shitloads of counterintelligence and built upgrades on your buildings, so they were like stealthy and stuff, and stealthy cities and God knows what, then you're like, well, what are they doing? They can fire at your planet, and just try and hit you randomly, which can work, because as it does go on, you do tend to have stuff all over the planet. And it does tell you when you get a hit, so you've hit something, so you would just aim back at that point over and over again until it comes up built and destroyed. So it isn't like a total foolproof plan, and there's also defensive systems as well. So you get like anti-railgun, like anti-projectile defense systems, which would fire, but they're only a chance of intercepting. It's not like 100%. You get shields, which protect you from like lasers hitting your cities and stuff. It's really funky. It's really, really funky. I mean, graphically, it don't look too good, but it's really funky. And I like these type of indie games because it's like it's a new
Darkest
concept,
Dungeon, isn't it?
Yeah, where it's like a new concept. It just comes from nowhere. Darkest Dungeon, which was like a kind of a different take on like a roguelike dungeon crawler thing, but they're new, and they're like, wow, and you're like, this is really interesting, and that's what I really like about indie games. I just hate the fucking train of like, that's why Uncanny Valley was pretty funky. But Uncanny Valley, if you just showed me the screenshots, I'm like, oh fucking hell, another 2D pixel art indie game, Jesus fucking Christ. That's what I'd be like,
Yeah.
But I thought that was funky. We should definitely play that. I think I've got another key. We should like do a video and play each other, because I don't think skill is really.
I really like the idea of it, because I just can't think of anything that I've seen that is kind of similar to it. And
well, skill and shooting the projectiles would be a thing, so that's not entirely true. What I just said.
I didn't realise it kind of exactly what it was, because as I say, I only came into the stream like right at the end when it disconnected, and I was like, well, that could have been good. I don't know, but that looks really, really interesting. I've got the Steam page up, and even just the screenshots, like showing the different research trees and everything. It's like, this is something that I'd play. Like, I'd properly.
Well, I mean, I've opened the Steam page and it's very positive, and I'm not surprised that user reviews are very positive, because it's really fucking good. We need to do a curator thing on this totally, but this is giant bomb up. I mean,
is this kind of what like the Planetary Annihilation was supposed to be? As it got towards the end game, is that?
It's Planetary Annihilation. It's not. I don't know. Could you even call this an RTS? Well, no, it's a turn-based strategy, so it's not real time. The thing is, Planetary Annihilation was. This is like way more balanced and way more tactical, and you would get more enjoyment out of this than you would out of Planetary Annihilation. But this is a different type of game. Like, this is a game like Planetary Annihilation was stupid because you could just attack people from everywhere without them really knowing, and he who got the most units in your planet was going to win. And I don't know. Planetary Annihilation was a flop of a game, but it should have been much better. This though is, I mean, things can change really quick just off like the location of your planet and the orbit of your planet. At one point, right? So in one of my games, I'm not going to find this, guys, because I don't know where it is in the VOD. But at one point, I fired. It was early aggression. Yeah, you could say this was a bit crazy, but I fired a missile randomly at this guy. Well, it wasn't random, but like the path was a guess, and it hit his planet and did some damage to his facility. So obviously, he's like, you bastard. He's got it in for me now. That planet has. When he came round the orbit of the sun and was in range of, well, you're always in range of the other planets to a point, but it's much harder to hit them when they're like on extreme orbits. He like unloaded on me, but the other guy also unloaded on me. So my little planet just got fucking hit with about 6 projectiles. I was like, oh god, this was severe damage to my infrastructure. I was like, I was basically out of the game. And I think I said at the time on the stream, because I was streaming it, I said, I'm dead. Like, I don't think this is going to be going for much longer, this game. I've been ruined. Like, I'm in the dark ages now. They've wrecked half my my intelligence system was gone. You know, so I couldn't even see what they had anymore. I was like, shit. But because then I'm on the orbit of like a more extreme orbit going out of it, I got a chance to recover, because these pair now were close to each other, so they're threats to each other more than me. So they just started slamming each other, and I'm like going around the thing, and I'm back in the game again. By the time my orbits have come round, I'm like, suddenly I can see what they've got, they can't see what I've got, and I got ready to attack them again, and then the game crashed. Fuck! But you know,
is it all just circular orbits that are like smaller and larger? So
yeah.
So I guess like if you're on like the outer orbit, would it be trickier to hit you like most of the time, or is it not quite that simple?
I think it might be easier, you know, because when you fire stuff from your planet, it arcs obviously around the gravity of the sun, and if you can get the trajectory exactly on their orbit, you will hit their planet, because your projectile will just go round. And if there's no interplanetary bodies in the way to affect its path with gravity, then you can probably hit them easier. People who are inside the system, there are like dead planets in the system, which will move around as well, and they will fuck up your aiming. So while they might be going around the planet kind of quicker to a point, they are still fairly protected. Like, I don't know. There probably is an optimal position though. You know, it is a strategy game, so there probably is like, oh, he's on the outer ring, he's got this benefit. He's on the inner ring, he's got that. You know, I guess on the inner ring, you've got more chance to fire at planets more often, because they're going to be in your firing arc more. Whereas if they're out of the way and the sun's in the way or whatever, because you're on like a really long orbit, then that might be more difficult sort of thing. But I don't know. Like, it's just funky. I don't know whether it's balanced or whatever, but it's really funky, and it's pretty cheap. And I would wholly recommend getting the game to play with your friend. Don't get it to play on your own, because, well, I mean, you could get it to play on your own, but you've got to rely on people playing the game and not going to mess you about and just leave. Because when I beat a guy, when I smashed him in, he wasn't dead, but he was like, oh, I can't recover now, so just left. It was like, you know, a StarCraft GG, and I was like, I was only a quarter of the way into the, you know, I'd only just unlocked hardened nuclear tips for my missiles. I'm like, man, I want to nuke you. You know what I mean? You know, got it.
Stick around longer so I can play you up more.
And I guess the last thing we've played is Galactic Civ, unless you played anything else, was to carry off in the...
No. I've messed around with Galactic Civ myself, actually, this week. I've enjoyed it. I have enjoyed it. Although I get lost in the ship editor.
Yeah.
It's far too easy to create mental ships there, but everything I create ends up being like crap. Like, just nowhere near as good as if I just left it alone.
Yeah, so I've got Galactic Civ running. This is the promo video we did with Stardock on the game. But it's totally a game you would play. It is basically Civilization in space. Now, if you play Galactic Civ 2, what I'd say to you is this is just Galactic Civ 2, but more refined. There isn't really much... Well, there may be different systems and stuff. I wasn't the most hardcore of Gal Civ 2 players, but it's pretty much the same thing. It's pretty basic, easy to pick up. It is enjoyable. Like, it is quite enjoyable. I mean, the only thing I don't like about the game is the combat, because it reminds me of Endless Space, and I don't like Endless Space combat. Yeah, I could sit there and play Endless Space for hours, but
my problem with the combat is
combat.
Yeah, well, the problem I have with the combat is that I don't see that it really adds anything to it. Like, you
may as well just click quick play. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it could do if you could either control the units yourself in the battle, but then that would kind of take away from the fact that it's turn-based. It could do if the camera was better, which it's not, because the free mode camera is really crap. I don't like the top-down camera because it's like not interesting to watch.
Yeah, you want to see you want to see the ship blasting away, don't you? Yeah.
Well, the cinematic camera sometimes is just like, oh, there's action over there. Well, too bad. I'm going to look at this ship that's just going around in circles, not doing anything. To be honest, you could get away without that. You could just have like, well, what Civ does. In fact, what it does anyway. Because when you click auto resolve, it just gives you the little animation of the ship shooting each other. Yeah, but then even if you actually watch the battle all the way through, it still afterwards gives you the little animation of the ships just shooting each other.
I think the problem is, though, I mean, you touched on it with the ship editor. I'm just going to... I'm not showing our faces. Just keep watching the game. It's like if you've put effort into building the ship, and then you can't watch the ship do damage. It pisses you off. You're like, oh, fuck, I've just built.
I think that's why it's in there, so people can watch their creations, like have
yeah, but
massive
it's not
battles.
implemented very well, is it? Because like you said,
No.
I mean, what the combat in Civ is just you move one unit onto another unit's hex and it attacks that unit. You see a little animation, or when you become a pro Civ player like me, you don't even use the animation because you don't want to delay. You just take the unit off the table, and that's fine. But in this, because you kind of got like an invested interest in the ships that you've built and named and all of that shit, you want to see them do a bit more than just go pew, pew, and then blow them up. But when you go into that mode, you don't really get to see it. Sometimes you do if it deems you worthy enough to witness the fight. Other times you don't. If you want to use the free camera, you kind of can. But ships do move around pretty quick, and they'll go out of your camera view, and you've got to spin around. And really, you just want to sit there and watch the fight. I mean, Endless Space did have a much better camera system. That showed you the ships like they came. That was almost like a line battle in space, the way that worked. The ships would fly on the screen and blast at each other from the side, and there would be phases in the fight, and you could issue cards. Now that's a big thing. You could issue orders in the fight. Well, you'd issue them at the start, and then you'd see them play out. In this, you just do nothing. You just send the ships, and that's it. You already issue the orders before the combat begins, because the orders are the makeup of your fleet. So you can decide that you've built a certain ship, and that is a interceptor ship, so it's going to approach really quick. You can build a ship and say it's a sniper vessel, so it's going to stay at range and fire. Build a ship so it's like a tank and just goes in straight away and tries to absorb damage. So you already balance your fleets that way, but then when you go to the fight, you just, if you want to watch it, you just sit there and it's not too good. You may as well just not do it at all.
Yeah, the watch system just isn't there. And the way the ships move in the watch system as well, it's not just about the camera. The way the ships move doesn't look great either, because they'll kind of like, they almost like jerk around a little bit, I've noticed. So you won't have like a smooth turn. You'll have them like turn sideways, but then like twitch a little bit and then fly away. I mean, to be honest, that doesn't surprise me all that much, because I think there's a reason that most of the ships didn't move in Sins of a Solar Empire, for instance. And that is that trying to get them all to move when you're having massive fleet engagements means that it looks terrible, because all the mods that allow you to do that, like when you look at Star Trek, the first time you see the Enterprise flying around shooting people with the phasers, it's like, oh my god, that's pretty awesome. As soon as you get into a massive fleet engagement and all the ships are bouncing off each other, flying around in circles, or just endlessly like zooming away from the edge of the planet, out of the gravity well and into the middle of goddamn nowhere, it wears off at that point. It's like, okay, well, this is just frustrating. I can appreciate the fact that they try to actually make it so that you've got like a showcase for your custom ships in the fights, but it just needs to be implemented better. Like, it needs to be done slightly, whether it's smoothing out the movement or giving you more control over the camera, or just allowing it so that the cinematic camera attaches to a certain ship and just shows it from different angles, like GTA 5, or in fact any of the GTA games where they've got the cinematic camera, so it's like you've got the behind the wheel view, you've got one that's like over there and you can see it. You kind of need like an in-space equivalent of that, because at the moment, like the first couple of times I was like, okay, that's my ship, that looks cool. And then I was like, no, I don't want to see this anymore. And then I just auto-resolved it from that point on, because I didn't actually gain anything from watching it play out. So, well,
I mean, the thing is, like, we have bashed on the combat a bit. I would have liked to have seen it if it was a bit more interactive, like there's a bit more tactical, I guess, or you could issue. In fact, if in the fight you could tell the ships what to attack, that would be interesting. I would have accepted that. You could click on them and say, attack that, attack this, attack that.
Yeah.
Which I thought it was going to allow me to do to begin with, because you can select the vessels, but all it does is show you their, the stats of the ship, like the hull and all that shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it basically just is Civ in space. If you are a fan of Civ, you will enjoy this game. Because, I mean, hell, it's called Galactic Civilizations. The clue's there in the title. It is a chance to play a game where you can build a galactic empire in your own image, because you can make your own race if you like. There'll be a ton of mods for this as well, because it's got Steam Workshop support. I hope there'll be a 40k mod for it. That'd be crazy. But, there's a lot of... Because you could build the ships in the ship editor if you spent enough time. Which, again, we built like a little Star Trek style early Enterprise ship, and that only took us about a minute to do. So if you put more effort into it, you could make them look decent and stuff. So it is a good game, and it is a game where there are nights where you sit there and you play Civ 5. Everyone who's a fan of Civ 5 does that. Let's go back to the webcams. Like, everyone who's a fan of Civ, Civ 5 is the best Civ, right? We forget about Beyond Earth because that needs a load of expansions. But Civ 5 is just the best. So people will play that. I'll load it up. I'll load up British Empire. Let's go. On a big, massive map with the islands, so I can kind of relive the British Empire. I like to be a naval power in the game more often than not. So, I'm enjoying it. That's great. Hours go by. This is the same thing. You know, this is like I'm going to start a space civilization and do the same thing, and it is just the same thing. I mean, I highly recommend it to anyone who is a fan of Civ. It's a good game. It's not like super polished like Civ is. I mean, like we said, the combat's a bit crap. Some little things are a little bit iffy, but it is still the only game that really does give you the civilization experience in space, unless you want to play that crazy Beyond Earth special game mode in Civ 4. Beyond the Sword, I think it was called.
Yeah. And even Beyond Earth itself,
well, Beyond Earth is nothing.
Give you
just,
the option of
you're not
doing
in
any of
space
this because it's just
just
on a different planet. The one thing that I will say as well, they've got like the humor of the game. I think is pretty much spot on.
I think it's quite stupid. Yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, Civ isn't too bad for it, but there are many games that take themselves a bit too seriously. You can't accuse Galactic Civilizations of doing that. It's like the way that they like all the leaders interact with each other and the way that you've got the different options of what to say. It makes me laugh because it's the kind of thing that we would make up as responses in Civ 5.
Yeah.
I remember we were doing Let's Plays in that, and it was like, I don't know what you're talking about, mate, or something. That's actually an option, and I really like that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a good game, guys. I mean, I think that's it anyway, Mr. Kirioff. The only other game I've played is Windward, but I only played it for about 10 minutes, and it was like some weird ship game, so I don't know what the hell's going on there. I've not really played anything else. The other stuff game-wise has just been, I've been doing like 40k modelling, which I seem to do every day now, which seems to just be my life now.
Yeah, I know that feeling. I've nearly got the army finished. I'm so close. I've just got this lad here.
Land Raider.
I say Land Raider.
Yeah.
Which has had its second coat, apart from at the back where I've had to re-glue it. It got knocked off the table by the dog's tail.
Oh, well, fancy that.
Yeah. But it's nearly there. And once this is done, I've got a Razorback, and that's it. That's my entire Space Marine army absolutely finished all the way through. And I can start getting Iron Warriors and doing those instead.
The addiction continues. Well, I think I just need to do a land speeder myself, and then my Space Marine force is done. Should be easy. Well, I mean, you could get it over 1850 points. But then I've got Orcs, which I'm working on now. But yeah, guys, we'll end podcast at that. Not Hotfix, I was going to call it. If you do like the show and you do want to support this, you can go to Patreon. I always get that confused as well. Patreon.com/hotfix, and you can check out. I think there'll be a link up the top, and then there's the link in the description below. Throw us a bit of cash our way if you want us to continue these type of shows, because they take a lot of time to do, but we know people do enjoy listening to them, so we kind of don't mind, provided you keep giving us support, guys. That's fine. And yeah, I am now going off to prepare for a 40k stream, which is pointless me advertising, because by the time you see this, the stream will have happened.
In fact, it happened yesterday.
My God. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you next time. You know, that's the American salute. I always do that.
I'm going back into the Rimmer salute, because the Rimmer salute's the best one, where he's like...
Goodbye, ladies and gentlemen.